And we're live.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Safety and Technology Committee meeting. It's Thursday, February 25th. We're running a few minutes behind schedule, but we'll see if we can make up the difference. Let me go ahead and share the agenda for today. So our agenda for today is as follows. We're going to go ahead and get started with the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. And let me go ahead and pull that up. Okay, and you guys should be able to see that. Okay, so our last Technology and Security Committee meeting was on January 15th, 2021. It was from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. We called the meeting to order at 5:36 p.m. In attendance was myself, David Warner, Antoinette Darden-Cintron, Carlos Ramirez, Laser Alert, Neo Ragudio, Christina Prisco, Maria Avitabil, and Diego Rendon. As part of the agenda, we reviewed the December 10, 2020 minutes. We approved them as amended. We then had a status of technology at GCSD report performed by Mr. Ramirez. He gave us updates on the CARES Act, as well as the ability to apply for more funding, which is happening as a joint effort between Mr. Ramirez and our Assistant Superintendent of Business official. We reviewed a chart on LTE Chromebooks and hotspots, software programs that were brought in by BOCES, and the rate that we will be reimbursed based on free and reduced lunch costs. There was also an update on closing the digital divide and the school infrastructure changes we've had to make in order to accommodate this remote learning scenario that we're in. There was also an update on the status of Chrome devices on back order and an update on the status of repairs. Specifically, we're using a local company to repair the broken Chromebooks to try to keep the wait list down with a 30-day warranty on repairs. We then had a high-level overview by Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Rendon, and Mr. Ragodillo on privacy and security policies, DPO designation, mandatory training, and annual report to the BOE on phishing campaign. During the phishing campaign updates, we spoke about software titles being used as part of the compliance, a brief description of phishing attacks and InfoSec compliance, and I asked about the frequency of the phishing exercises, and it was clarified to me that the click rate will be driving the delivery of training and instruction. We will also have a demo of the product in the future. We went into closed session at 6:15 p.m. due to the nature of the topic. We came out of closed session. Basically, while we were in closed session, we were talking about security cameras, placements, licensing, etc. We came back into open session at 6:36 p.m. We reviewed some current policies that are being discussed by the committee, including a brief review provided by Christina Prisco on the process that is used to terminate employee access to our buildings and records once an employee is departing the school district. From then on, we went through some COVID-19 remote working privacy and data protection updates. And from there, we talked about the status of the safety plan. High level, we still need to talk about some DLP, IDAM, IRP, and we closed the meeting at 7:04 p.m. I did send this out, the meeting minutes, to the rest of the committee a little while ago. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review. Does anybody have any comments on the meeting minutes? Okay, that said, we're going to go ahead and is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. With that said, we approved the meeting minutes from last time. And we have two special guests here to give us a primer on some of the data and privacy. Mr. Ramirez, would you like to introduce them, please? He's on mute. Oh, he's on the phone. All right, I'll go ahead and introduce. So as part of the data and privacy and compliance conversation that we had during our last meeting with EdLaw 2D, there is a presentation that's going to be performed tonight, performed by Dr. Madeline Romano and Miss Lucy Roman. It's basically talking about data privacy and some of those other pieces. Thank you for joining us this evening, Dr. Romano and Miss Roman. I'm not sure if Mr. Ramirez wanted to give a quick high-level introduction, but it looks like he might be tackling a fire at the moment.
You might actually be working with Lucy on getting the presentation set up, because I see Lucy looks like she's talking at the same time that Carlos is talking as well. So they're probably working to do that. So I could do a tap dance while we're waiting for them if you like.
I'll join you, Dr. Romano.
Okay, good evening.
I'll be a partner.
I see some very familiar faces here. I've been actually working with the folks from Greenburgh I've been with Lower Hudson Regional Information Center for 23 years. So I spent 18 years in the ed tech side, in the past 5 managing the data privacy and security service. I also coordinate the service on a statewide basis. So the data privacy service that you're part of doesn't have just the 48 districts from Lower Hudson in it. It actually has 540 districts across New York State. So outside of the data warehouse, which is a mandatory service, this is probably one of the services that has the largest number of participating districts in the state. And we just found out yesterday that the entire school district of the city of Buffalo has now joined the service as well. So it's quite a big deal. And we've been working very closely with Carlos and his team. And I don't know, Carlos, are you ready? Are you ready to?
Yes, I apologize.
I can stop tap dancing now. So
first of all, welcome to our committees. This is the Safety and Technology Committee. This is a board-sponsored committee, and thank you for attending this to our invitation. I'm gonna ask our members to introduce themselves. We have board members. We have the president of our board also joining us, Antoinette Darden-Cintron. And we are excited to have you here and to tell us a little bit more about the data privacy and security and the compliance that we have to follow as a district with these new regulations that started in force this year. I think that in the chat, we already have a link that was placed by Lucy Roman. She is basically asking us to go to that link that contains the presentation. I'm gonna turn to you, ladies. We can go around just to introduce ourselves. Do you want to start, Ashley, as the chair?
Sure, thank you. So my name's Ashley Pineda. I am the Board of Education trustee, the chair of this specific committee. Nice to meet you.
Antoinette.
Hi, everybody. My name is Antoinette Darden-Cintron. I am this year's president of the school board. I apologize when my video will be off. I'm doing triple duty. So I am in a training for school and something for work. So I will be listening and chiming in when I can. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
thank you. Lucy is having a little audio problem, so I'm trying to help her get set up while we're getting this going. So I'm sorry. I didn't, thank you, Antoinette. I did hear your introduction. Okay.
I'm David Warner. I'm a member of the Board of Education and happy to be here.
Thanks, David.
I'll go next. Diego Rendon, instructional technology, systems, you name it, here I am.
And Diego, I've been working with you for 100 years, right?
So you still got me beat by 3. I just hit 20.
Okay.
I just hit 20.
Oh, 20, okay.
Thank you.
I guess I'll go Laser Alert, network administrator.
And I know Laser too for many years.
Yes, when I was a young pup, yes.
Yes, a young pup.
And he's an active person,
Graduate.
as we know.
You go back for him.
I'll go next. Neil Ragudial. I'm a IT specialist here at Greenburgh CSD. This is only my 3rd year here, so I got ways to go.
I'm not leaving for a long time, so we have many years to work together.
Nice.
Hi, my name is Chris Cardy, and I am an IT specialist for Greenburgh Central School District, and I am also a member of Carlos's team. I've also been here for 3 years.
Okay, and I don't think I've met you yet, Chris, but like I said, I'll be around for a while, so we'll work together.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Carly. Okay, Dr. Romano, believe that Lucy is joining again. She's connecting to audio, so we should be okay to start the presentation.
Okay, so she said that I should click on the link in the chat. So I'm going to do that. And Lucy, are you on? Do you now have audio, Lucy? You're on mute. Carlos, can you unmute Lucy?
I can, Ashley, you have the control, or Laser.
I just pressed the X to unmute, but doesn't look like she's pressing the button. Because I think what it does is it requests them to unmute, but they still have to press unmute.
Okay, so let's just send her a chat. Let's see.
Can she hear us?
I think she can hear us.
Can you hear us, Lucy?
Lucy, if you're having problems, you can do the dial-in by phone if that's easier. We could use the audio from your cell phone. Let me get you that number. Hold on.
Okay, you know what? Actually, she did send me the presentation in the chat.
Maybe
So,
mute off, but we still can't hear her.
Yes.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Looks like you're muted. Can you hear us?
Are the links unique?
No, because the same link was shared with them, and Dr. Romano is on. Dr. Romano, you want to take it over from the presentation?
Okay, so I think
Sure. Yeah.
Let me see what I can do. All right, let's see. Let me share the screen. And let's see if you can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll see if Lucy can join in, but actually I had worked on this presentation, but then Lucy enhanced it with some interactive pieces to it, but that was the part she was going to do, so hopefully she can join in when it's time for interactive. Otherwise, it's going to be a little flat, so I'll try not to do that. So what we wanted to do was to share with you some information about Education Law 2D. Carlos and his team have heard me speak about this for quite a while, but we've come to realize that although the technology people in the districts are aware, the board members and some other administrators really don't get to hear this information as well. So what we wanted to do is really express to you the fact that Ed Law 2D, it's actually been around since 2014, but the regulations were only adopted by the board of the New York State Department of Education in January of 2020. So it's been about a year that districts are supposed to be working with some of the requirements of the law. And the 9 elements are here. The first one is a good understanding of what PII is. So I'm going to just toss that out to everybody right now and think, what do you think of as personally identifiable information? And if you just want to unmute yourself and just kind of shout out and let us know what you think.
Sure. So I know it's, a name, address, phone number, anything that describes a person, I think.
Okay.
Birthday.
Okay, birthday. What about
Your transcript, your grades, if you're special education designated, things like that.
Okay, so that's the PII when it relates to students. Ed Law 2D also covers teachers and principals, but it's very interesting because the law is very specific in that it covers PII related to teacher and principal evaluations. So there are other laws that cover other elements of PII for teachers and principals, but Ed Law 2D is specific to PII related to principal and teacher evaluation systems. And that's something that gets a little fuzzy for some people. The other thing to think about with PII is that something like one identifier might not be able to identify a student, but a couple of identifiers together might combine that you could identify a student. So it's really important to understand that there's direct PII and then there's indirect PII. And the indirect PII is the one that's a combination that would then point out the student. So when Ed Law 2D was passed and the regulations came out, they talked about having a data protection officer assigned to every single school district. And if a district did not appoint someone as the DPO, then state ed by de facto appointed the superintendent of the district as the DPO. And what ends up happening is there's only one district person that can be on the state ed DPO list. And in some cases, again, it's the superintendent, but the superintendent is the only one who receives the information from state ed. So then when state ed sends out the certain information throughout the course of the year, it goes to the super, and it doesn't necessarily go to the team that's actually doing the work. And in most school districts, it's not the superintendent who is the DPO. It might be the DOT, a school business official, or so on. And we have a couple of slides about that. But the thing to consider is that your DPO should really be a team, because not one person can do all the work, and the work flows into other departments as well. So that's what this slide shows you. Your HR person team might be involved because of the employee training factor. Your DOT would be involved because of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, incident response, and third-party vendors. And your business official might be involved as well. We did a survey of all the DPOs in our region, and this is a breakdown of their other titles. So there are very few people who are just a DPO, and that's it, and they do nothing else. Most of the DPOs are in the category here. We have curriculum and assistant superintendents for curriculum and instruction. We have the DOT. Down here, you notice that the DPO is also the DOT and is also the CIO. So these folks have a lot on their plate, but they are the officially appointed DPO for the district, and they are the ones that received all the information from state ed. They're the ones that are on all the listservs to get the information about Ed Law 2D and the requirements of Ed Law 2D. So right now for your district, I think the DPO is the superintendent. So the superintendent is not the person who is actually doing the work, but they're getting the information, and it's not funneling down to the team of like Carlos and Diego and the rest of the team. So that's why you should think about who should really be the appointed DPO for your particular district.
So a quick question on that. What is the recommended best practice for that?
It actually varies from district to district. District size and the functions of other people in the district really determines who should be the DPO. And, again, we have 730 districts across New York State that are not part of the Big Five. The ones up north, they'll have a superintendent who is also the business official, who's also the high school principal. Mm-hmm. They might be the DPO. Down here in our region, what we're finding, this data is actually from our region. So you can see that in the Lower Hudson region, 18 of the 62 school districts have the DPO as also being the CIO and the DOT. And then if you combine that with just the DOT, you now have a significant percentage of the districts in our region have a DOT or a DOT and a CIO as the DPO. So this gives you an idea of what's happening across the 62. Lower Hudson, it's Putnam, Northern, Rockland, and Southern Westchester BOCES is what is in the Lower Hudson region's area. So again, it depends on what's happening in your district. All right, now Lucy has a poll, and I don't know how to do this. Oh, okay. Do you know what PII stands for?
Lucy, do we have your audio, Lucy?
Information.
Yeah. If you click on the link in the chat.
Oh, it's back. Okay. So Lucy, what happens here with the poll?
So with the poll, what happens is we can see how they did. So far, nobody has answered. So I'm going to go back and not share. If they can answer whether or not they know what PII is.
And how do they answer? Do they have to click on the chat?
Did they click on the chat session on the link on the chat session?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm just doing the presentation from it.
Okay.
Everyone can click on the chat link and they can answer right now. I just did it. You can just actually go in there. Ashley, David, everybody on the call.
I just did it.
Thank you.
So for those who have participated, we have 50% that say yes, they know what it is. 12.5 say they're not sure, and some didn't answer yet. But it's giving us an idea.
Okay, so what the next couple of slides are talking about what the DPO's role is in the district, so you get an understanding of what they should be doing. And one of those is really understanding what PII is. The person who's the DPO in the district should be the go-to person. So if Diego has a question about a vendor or a software program that they want to use and not sure whether or not it has PII or the PII is protected, he would go to the DPO and ask that question, or then reach out, or the DPO might reach out to Lucy and myself to help clarify that question. It's the person that is helping to establish a culture of data protection in your district. Lucy, these advance on their own, correct? Yes, they do. Okay. This is something that's really, really important. The one hard and fast deadline that State Ed did give was that every district needed to have a school board approved data security and privacy policy. Originally, the deadline was July 1st. Because of COVID, they moved it to October 1st. And they are now spot checking districts' websites to see whether or not there is a school board approved data privacy and security policy. And I know that Carlos has been working with Lucy on getting a policy in place for your district that I don't think is approved as of yet. But this is the one thing that there was a particular deadline for. So for those of you who are on the board, State Ed is poking districts and they're saying, you know, where is your policy? It should be on your website and should be shared with all of the employees in your district. So anyone who has access to PII, your bus drivers, your cafeteria workers, all of them should be signing off on having received the policy and having read it as well. And there are very specific guidelines about what should be included in your data privacy and security policy. So that's something, since that isn't complete just yet, that should probably be one of the most important actions for you to take as of this meeting today.
Thank you for
Anybody have any questions on that?
I do. How do you typically, do you have to prove compliance by showing some proof that all of the individuals in the school district that do have access to PII have signed off on something? Is that something that's required as well, or?
It's similar to the other required policy reviews that are in a district. You know, everyone has to do the policy review of bloodborne pathogens and hazardous waste and so on. This is just another one of those policies that should be included in your annual policy review. But many districts didn't have the policy in place when they did their annual policy review, so they need to make sure that they put this in place to do it. So for this year, it might be a separate mechanism for doing it, but next year when you do your annual policy review, you can have this included as one of those policies.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the Parents' Bill of Rights is a document that you probably have back from 2014, because most districts did do that when the law was first enacted, but it needs to make sure that it's updated. And the Parents' Bill of Rights is used twice. Once as a document on your website that should be in a parent-friendly location. So remember, the law is about transparency to parents. So you want to make sure that you have something on your website that has your data privacy and security policy so parents can see it as well, and also your Parents' Bill of Rights. And in addition to you having the Parents' Bill of Rights on your website, a copy of your Parents' Bill of Rights needs to be included in every contract that you have with a vendor where they're using student PII or teacher principal evaluation data. So there's two uses for the Parents' Bill of Rights, the website and included in the contracts. You also need to include a copy of the Parents' Bill of Rights with any free software program that's being used where it contains protected data as well. And that's the heavy lift. Okay, third-party contracts. There are very specific requirements of information that needs to be included in your third-party contracts. If you purchase software through Lower Hudson RIC or any of the other BOCES, you don't have to worry about that, because part of the service that we provide is negotiating the privacy terms into the contracts. But if you're purchasing anything directly with a vendor, or if you're using free software programs, you need to make sure that you have a copy of your Parents' Bill of Rights included in the agreement, that there is a data privacy agreement that covers all the requirements, and that the vendor provides you with the supplemental information, which is actually an excerpt of the contract as well. And then all of these elements need to be included in your inventory, which is then posted on your website on top of that. Questions on that one? Okay. Annual employee training, that needs to be done at least once a year. The annual employee training needs to cover certain criteria. The state does not tell you how you have to do the training, but it tells you what needs to be included in the training. So you need to include FERPA, COPA, PERPA, and SIPA information. Those are federal and state laws. You need to include training on cybersecurity awareness, like phishing campaigns and so on. And then also your district policy sign off has to be included as well. You know, one of those things. So you can do this in any number of ways if you use Global Compliance Network or Safe Schools, or as part of the data privacy service, we actually have modules that we created specifically for addressing Ed Law 2D compliance. And that's something that you can then use with your staff as well. The other thing to keep in mind is everybody in your district who touches student or teacher principal data need to be trained. It means your bus drivers, your cafeteria workers, your nurses, your clerical staff. It's not just teachers, it's everyone. So if they're not doing those other modules that you might be using for training, you need to make sure that you do that. And in addition to the online modules that we've created, some districts prefer to do on-site, well, not on-site anymore, but professional development customized for your district. And that's something that we have available if you wanted to approach it from that perspective as well. Any questions on training? Okay, Lucy, what's happening? Oh, click.
She's actually showing the actual inventory tool for all the software and devices and
okay
contracts and software.
Lucy, do you want me to log in with my demo district?
Lucy, go ahead. She's listening. Lucy, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm logging in right now.
Oh, okay.
She's doing it. Yeah. Go ahead. They can hear you, Lucy.
Okay. But is she? Do I have to send you the screen to share, Lucy?
Oh, it didn't bring it up. Sorry, it didn't bring it up.
Do you want me to try logging in?
No, I think we'll skip it just for time's sake.
Okay.
We'll go to the complaint procedure.
Okay. Lucy, I'm doing a lot of talking. Do you want to talk or do you want me to keep going?
Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
So one of the other responsibilities for the DPO is to really look at the complaint procedure that's in the district, review it according to the Ed Law 2D so that to make sure that we're in compliance with everything. They have to develop a process for it and then have the link available on the website. And actually, this work has been done to some degree because the team with the tech team, Carlos Ramirez and Diego, as well as Neil, have been working on this. So they have a link to the complaint form right on the website. You'll be able to see that on the next page. Under your technology section, you have a section that shows where a parent, whether it's a parent or a staff member, because it could either be a staff member that found that the information was disclosed, they have the ability to also file a complaint procedure. This information will then be followed up by the DPO, and then they have a particular amount of time for them to get back to the person who reported it. This will be revised a bit based on our conversation after the policy has been approved, because there were some changes in this one, but they have something here right now. Any questions on the complaint procedure?
And you're actually ahead of the game because not all districts have this up just yet.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks to the work that they've been doing, they have that piece. Because we were able to do that without the policy fully. The next part is the incident response reporting system. That one is really, it requires a lot of work. And Madeline, I don't know if you want to speak to that one a little bit.
Well, this is something that we had an information session about a month or so ago, but we found that districts really need more hands-on time. So on March 17th at our user group, we're actually going to be doing a hands-on session on creating an incident response plan with all the districts that subscribe to the service. And because you're on a higher level than just the base service, and Lucy is your direct consultant, she'll be working directly with Carlos and his team to create the incident response plan. So this way you have that set and ready if the unfortunate thing happens and you do have some kind of a cyber breach.
And that involves also identifying the people in the district who would need to be notified based on the incident that occurred.
You want me to take this one, Lucy?
Sure.
Okay. This is the one that raises a high level of anxiety for everyone.
Just a little bit.
Myself. Right, Diego? Okay.
Just a little bit.
The NIST Cybersecurity Framework is a national framework that State Ed has chosen that all school districts, all K-12 districts in New York State need to follow. And the NIST Cybersecurity Framework is, well, it's a framework. There's 5 functions, there's 23 categories, and there's 108 controls. Now, that's where everybody starts getting nervous because how can I do 108 things? But it's not 108 things. It's 108 in general, but not all apply to K-12 education. So what we're doing is we're working with the school districts to help lower the anxiety level. And right now we're saying the first thing you need to do is identify, because that's the very first function, is identify your assets and identify your software. Because unless you identify what you have, you can't do detect, protect, respond, and recover, which are the other functions. So Lucy has been working with the team in Greenburgh to start identifying the software programs, and then we'll start working on identifying the assets. And then once you know what you have, you can then start building in the other controls around it. So it's a very heavy lift. I'm not going to say it's not, but we're taking it in very small chunks. And right now, this is the goal, is to focus on identify. David, you look like you have a question.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. All right. So I don't want you to get nervous about it because we are taking it slow. We also did develop a customized tool as part of the data privacy service. And again, this is all the 12 RICs across the state are working together to build these tools. And we've created target profiles that K-12 education organizations should strive to reach. And what this tool will do is give you the opportunity to assess where you are currently, take a look at the target, and figure out an action plan of how you get from your current profile to the target profile. And in some cases, you'll see that you already met the target and you're okay, like your complaint procedure. That's actually part of Ed Law 2D, but it's also part of the NIST framework. So you're already at the target for that one, but you may not be at the target for other things. And I would say, I would stake my life on saying there is no district in K-12 that is at the target for any of these controls at this point, or all of these controls. It's going to be a culture shift and really a change in the way you think about things. And that's what we're here to help you with. And that's what your DPO is responsible for making sure they do.
So a quick question on that.
Sure.
Is there any reason they're going with NIST and not CIS?
This was something that there was a work group that was established through New York State Department of Education, and they felt that they wanted to do the NIST CSF because it was a framework and not so much a standard. And a framework is more of a mindset and a philosophy, where a standard is you must do X, Y, and Z. And that the other standards were actually developed for government and large businesses, where the NIST cybersecurity framework was really developed to be more flexible. And it was geared towards small municipalities and small businesses. And that's why they chose the NIST CSF instead.
Thank you.
They had looked at the 870, I used to know the number by heart, but they looked at the 800 point something, and that was going to be the way, and they just felt it was too rigid for schools to be able to deal with. And even the NIST CSF is going to be tough.
Yeah,
but,
no, it makes total sense. I was just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, you know, the more I learn about it, the more I say, but because it's a framework, you can't do everything. And then it's also a way of looking at your risk and narrowing down the risk. And that's really what it's all about. Okay, Lucy, you want to do this next one?
The next one has to do with an annual report that the DPO has to provide to the Board of Education. So that report would entail a number of items that really identify the 9 items that we have been discussing prior to this. And we are going to have a user group session, a work session, really to assist some of the people in the service, the DPOs in the service, to be able to begin to work on that report. I have a quick little activity asking if you signed into Neopod, if you do not mind, just write down what you think should be included in the report, the annual report.
So once again, you can click on the link in the chat and that will take you straight to the activity. Everyone on the meet, you can actually link and start typing, yes.
Yeah, as board members, what would you like to see when the DPO presents to you on what's been happening in the cybersecurity world in your district?
So as you can see on the board, a big one is the complaints, the number of complaints that we receive, the reportable incidents. Those are things that are really critical for the board to know. And that would be part of the information that would be provided as part of the report. The employee training is also another one. What's the plan for the employee training? Do you see that?
Are you seeing what Lucy's talking about, or are you just seeing my screen?
I'm seeing it in the Nearpod presentation itself.
Like Armando, just click
Okay.
on the white, just click on the, yeah, just click in there.
That was in the chat. It has, and you can see all the items.
When you click on the chat, you actually see the board.
Okay, so I'm in the wrong place.
Any questions with that?
Yeah, close that little note section. The little, yeah, close that right there by the little.
Yes?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And I'm supposed to be clicking here, right?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
You can see it.
There we go. Okay.
Would you like to add anything, Madeline?
No, actually, I'm very interested in knowing what the board members would like to see, because this is a really great opportunity for us, because we're going to be, having an information session, and I know what I think you might want to know, but I want to know what you want to know. Okay, so employee training, privacy culture, successive training, complaints, status of complaints. Okay, reportable incidents.
Or our profile is relative to the ideal 108 controls implemented.
Mm-hmm.
I texted that, but I don't think it got on there.
So the NIST framework, the items of the NIST framework.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
this is great. Thank you.
This information, we'll be able to capture this and be able to give this information also to Carlos and the team. Thank you. So these are the 9 requirements again that we just reviewed. It's just a quick summary of those. Being able to understand the PII, what that is, making sure that we have the policy updated and approved and posted on our website, providing a plan and having the plan for the employee training, making sure that we have our Parents' Bill of Rights in place, and then having it also available for the vendors so that for any application that we purchase, it's there, ready to go. They sign that in addition to the supplemental information in the for the third-party contract. Having the complaint procedure, which thank God we have pieces of that in place, the incident report, and thank God, I should say thanks to the tech team, and the list cybersecurity. The next list just gives us the green mean we've done it, we continue to do it. The yellow stars mean we're working towards it, because as soon as it gets approved by the board, we can then post it on the website. That will be posted. The policy district in terms of meeting the requirements that are listed that we reviewed. Are there any questions about the status on these?
Oh, it just sounds like we need to get going with that data privacy and security policy.
That's
Yeah.
probably the most important thing for you to do. And it's kind of interesting because, you know, state ed had given us this deadline, but they don't have a formal accountability measure in place. But what they are doing is they're going out and they're spot checking school districts' websites. And they're looking for three things. They're looking to see that you have your data security and privacy policy posted. They're looking to see that you have your parents' bill of rights posted. And they're looking to see that you have an inventory of your software programs. And they also are looking to see that it's in a parent-friendly location. They don't want to see the policy in board docs and the parents' bill of rights under technology and or the parents' bill of rights under parents, and then your information of your inventory under your technology. They'd like to see it all in one place, and they're viewing it from the perspective of a parent going out and trying to find the information. So what we're saying to districts as a best practice is, yes, you could have it in board docs, but also have a link to it on your parent and community page or your technology page. And make sure you have those three parts all together in either a parent page, community page, or technology page. And if you have that, state ed can't ding you.
So question on that, is it best practice, I guess, in that case, to just have a separate page for this whole topic and just put everything together there?
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
That really would. There's been a couple of districts that decided to do that. They'll have a data security and privacy page. They'll have a little blurb about what Ed Law 2D is all about. And then they'll have those three elements part of it. And then they'll also have the complaint procedure there as well.
Name the district and we can copy what they did.
Well,
Except
there's
with the
actually,
individual data, it should be the same.
right. If you want, there are two examples that we just used the other day. We showed districts North Rockland and we showed districts Dobbs Ferry. And one of them, and there's also other ones like Scarsdale has a good one. There's quite a few out there, but one of them used the approach of under the umbrella of technology. The other one used the approach of the under the umbrella of parents. So it really depends on what works best in your district. But the main thing is the reason we chose, you know, those two as samples was because everything was together in one spot. And I like the idea of having a like data security page or parent page or something. That would be really nice.
And then the other thing, I'm not sure if the superintendent is the data protection officer by default, whether that was a conscious decision on the part of our current superintendent, or whether that's something that needs to go into our annual appointments we do every July.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that should also be on the to-do list.
Yeah, I think that's really very important. And this is no disrespect to your superintendent, but I say this to I would say this to the superintendent myself. You don't want this job. You know, you want to have somebody in your, because of the listserv. That's really the biggest issue, is the fact that the state ed department absolutely refuses to have anybody other than the official DPO on the listserv. So therefore, if I am not on the listserv and I run the service for the entire state, and they won't let me be on their listserv because I'm not a DPO. So when they send out DPO information, I have to rely on my colleagues who are DPOs to send me the information so I can share it. So when you think about the plethora of emails a superintendent gets each day, they may miss something like this. And that's why it's really, unless you're going to have a super who's very actively involved in this topic, then I'd say great. But if they aren't, then you need to think about how to get a person on the listserv who is the DPO, who's really going to be the one responsible for overseeing all the work.
Great, thank you. Diego, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, Dr. Armano, I wasn't sure if while you're still sharing your screen, if you wanted to pull up the inventory tool. I mean, we have added the stuff that falls under BOCES for the most part. So we get an idea of what actually the documentation looks like once implemented and so forth.
Do you have it on your website?
No, I can put it under the we're District 95.
I mean, I can show you a sample of one, but if you want to see your specific one, I can log in to do it. Now that I think about it, hang on one second. Are you seeing my screen right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now you're seeing, oh, okay, hang on a second.
Too many passwords.
Yeah, don't show the passwords because we're being broadcast.
No, I'm gonna have to shoot you if I show you my password.
You have to shoot everyone on the YouTube stream.
Yeah,
Okay, actually,
the Greenburgh CSD channel will have this.
oh, shoot, I didn't realize we were being out on a YouTube channel, shoot, okay. Real quick though, this is Diego, thank you for letting me share this piece. This is our dashboard for data privacy service. So Carlos and his team have access to this. This is where you can access the inventory tool, but this is where we also have resources to help guide you through the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. We have our professional development modules here, and we have digital digest debriefs and blasts that actually go out to the people who are on our listserv. And if I go into the inventory tool, and I'm in here as a super user, so I will be able to get to your district. Let me just see which one. I want district inventory, Lower Hudson, Greenburgh. Okay, this is your district's inventory, the work that the folks have been working on so far. And it just takes a minute or two to load. It loads faster in your district because I have so many districts here, it takes a little bit longer. But this is your district inventory and the work that they've done so far. And the part that will show up on your website, oh, actually, I can't show you the supplemental from my view. I'm sorry, Diego. I can only show the full inventory, but
Yeah, but I added the I added both pieces to those that had it. So if you wanted to pull those up.
okay. Where do you want me to go to pull it up? On your,
Through BOSI's.
On
BrainPop.
on the actual documents themselves. So for example, BrainPop is through BOSI, so both documents are in there. I linked them
Okay.
in there.
and this is when I talked before about the Parents' Bill of Rights and the supplemental information. These are the links that you need to have on the various products. So anything that has a green drop down, the link is already done. The red ones are the ones that are in progress. And do not be alarmed that you have a lot of red, because if you go to the Lower Hudson's website, you'll see that we still have a lot that are in progress as well. Next year at this time, there should be no reds. There should be all greens. But right now, this is a work in progress. This is something new that everybody's working on.
Yeah, and something that we need to add, and in the committee, we talked about approving software, right? We have to keep in mind that this includes any free software being used by any teacher. So that means one teacher that's using God knows what wonderful free software out there, we need to have it in here. And that's one of the big tasks, making sure that you do not miss, a title. And we need to know. So that's a big item on our list.
And for the NIST Cybersecurity Framework compliance, you need to include every single piece of software that's being used in your district, whether or not it has PII. For EdLaw 2D, you need to have every piece of software that contains protected data. So it would be the teacher principal evaluation data or the student data. So that's why when you're looking at a particular district, you would see that there's two different things. There's a supplemental page and there's also the inventory page. But since I'm in as a super user, I can't show you both of those. But if I go out real quick and I show you my demo district. Oh, it's not going to do it. You know what? No, I can't do it from here. Oh, there we go. Hang on one second. Now this is my pretend district. You see I have a district inventory. And that's where you're going to see the reds and the greens pop up. And then you also see supplemental information. Okay, supplemental information is a subset of the district inventory. And on here, these are the products that have PII. Under district inventory, these are ones that don't have any PII. So I'm covering the NIST framework, and I'm also covering EdLaw 2D. And one of the things that we're working with on the district is getting them to understand that even though we haven't been focusing specifically on the NIST cybersecurity framework, a lot of the work that we have been doing for EdLaw 2D actually is required by NIST as well. So there's an overlap between it. So when people feel like, what have I done? I haven't touched anything about NIST. You've actually done more around NIST than you realize. Like employee training is a requirement of NIST. It's also a requirement of EdLaw 2D.
So I have a question. To Diego's earlier point about ensuring that all of the pieces of software are here, regardless if it's one user or multiple users, is there any guidance or best practices on how best to ensure that that actually happens?
Well, one of the things that districts are starting to do is they're, depending on what you have as your filter systems, some of these internet filter systems enable you to do analytics to help determine what software programs are being used. And then once you have the information on what's being used, then you can start narrowing down on who's using it and when are they using it and so on. And it's also about your culture in your district. Many years ago, systems were locked down, when teachers were bringing in, floppy disks and CD-ROMs, and they were crashing the network, and then the networks locked down and said you couldn't bring anything into use anymore. Then the internet came around, and there were all these web-based programs, and it became the Wild West. And some districts said, no, you have to have a software approval process to use something. And other districts said, we have an open culture, and districts can allow the teachers to use anything that they feel is valuable instructionally because they don't want to, squash their creativity. So it's really about the culture of your district and what you want to do. But based on the regulations, you need to get a handle on it. And if you want to encourage them to use free software, then you still have to get all these EdLaw 2D agreements in place for free software programs. So it's a really difficult thing to do, but it's what the regulations require.
Lucy wanted to say something. Go ahead, Lucy.
So maybe one of the processes can be that if a teacher is looking to use one particular one, not just a teacher, for a group of teachers or a whole department, that they have those documents prior to it being purchased. These are the documents that need to be signed, so that then this way we can go ahead and procure that software or really allow for them to use it if they have those documents signed.
So we have been working for the last 3-4 years to try to establish some procedures and protocols. People reach out to us. They tell us, we want this, we want that. The best example is Nearpod. We just recently acquired for the district, and it was used in part of the presentation that we had. It's an interactivity software. But before it came, Nearpod is also offered for free. So some teachers already subscribe to it, try it, see the features and everything, but they come back to us and ask for permission to actually get it formalized by a subscription by the district. Now, what we do is we basically try to push everything through BOCES, so we get the umbrella of the protection of the contracts that are done through the state and through the BOCES, and ensure that we are in compliance on the privacy laws, on the EdLaw 2D for data privacy in general. At this point, I would say that we did the first part of the work on developing this awareness with our teacher body. They know that anything that is free costs something. What is the cost? Your data.
Right.
Because if you want to get it for free, you need to put your email, you need to put your information in there, and definitely your data is now in their servers. And that is the main concept that we wanted to be sure that everybody got in their minds. So we need to continue. This is ongoing training. The only way that you can really hold accountable anybody is if you train them and you provide with information before anything happens. But obviously there is always the temptation to get into something that is free, and you just go and open that account and submit your data, and they now have it, So there are those controls, and also with my team, with Laser, Diego, and Neil, and the rest of the detecting, Cardi, Victoria, we try to enforce that everybody communicates. There has to be some sort of communication before a new software is applied or is instituted in any of the departments. We are for supporting instruction. We are supporting instructional technology, but we need to communicate. We need to have that information. I can share with you the last experience with a meeting with Dr. Reynolds and the principals. Principals share everything that the teachers share with them in terms of their software use in the classroom. And we start evaluating what is not in our contracts. And that's how we learn about these new things. So it's an ongoing process, and it's a monumental task. And that's only on the part of the inventory. So at the same time, we need to work on all the measures and the back end, ensure that filtering is in place, the security is in place, that assisting or reporting is in place. So we're happy with the progress that we have, but we definitely appreciate the help from Lyric and BOCES in this compliance and preparation. Progress is preparation. We're preparing, so we're progressing.
And Carlos, thank you for that, because progress, our tagline these days is progress is compliance, because there is no end game. This is going to be a forever thing. So what state ed has been saying is doing nothing is not acceptable. Do something more than you did before that shows that you are working towards a compliance, which is making progress. So if you had no inventory and now you have a partial inventory, that's progress. If you had a partial inventory and now your partial inventory has a lot more in it, that's progress. So that's why that's really your goal. And we talk about the 108 controls. It's not going to happen. Not all 108 relate to K-12, but you need to start making progress along the way. And you'll find that you've done a lot more than you think you've done when it comes to the NIST framework.
Thank you. One additional question, Mr. Ramirez, are we planning on doing anything on the filtering side to try to help block some of that?
Yes, we actually already started that process. And what we're doing right now is we proactively blocked anything that is not approved through the network. So gathering the information via this inventory prepare us for knowing what is not included. Mm-hmm. You know, we have a repository where we can just check, and it's an easy check. Is this already included? Is not included? Are we allowed to have it? And then we can actually enable or disable the access. Obviously, there are, you know, with the pandemic and full remote learning, we had to try to look for ways to improve our controls. And we are working now on a virtual filtering with Lyric, and we subscribe to that service, which allow us to control everything remote. And we don't really need to be on premises to actually adjust the filtering for software, for access to websites or anything like that. It's very helpful. It's very helpful. So we're still trying to improve in every area that is possible. But like Dr. Romano mentioned, this is an ongoing effort. It never ends.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the turnaround time on average for a teacher who requests a new piece of software?
Normally we act on requests in about 48 hours. You know, we actually contact the vendor and start doing our research. Most of the approvals won't take more than a week, you know, in worst case scenario. If it's something new, like, you know.
Okay, 2 to 5 days. Okay.
Yeah, that's basically the time frame.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ramirez. I think, Diego, you had your hand up again?
Yeah, just to Mr. Ramirez said, also from the Google administration side, we're able to control a lot of the what can be accessed via policies. So in the Google world, extensions are a quick way to get to tasks or functions. So we are careful in what we allow in terms of a free market, if you will, right? That you just can't download an extension and go about it. Yes, it's a little bit of a pain, but we need to make sure that they're safe. You know, especially now in the past year, you know, we had to look at a lot of extensions and we had to deny some, like I've said many times before in the same committee, where they just don't meet a standard for private policy. So we've denied extensions because somebody just codes an extension and we don't know what happens to any of the data that's being used or accessed, right? Again, a user just clicks on it and they're able to do the task they need, but they don't realize what's really happening in the back end with that extension, or data going places, and how much data is being taken or utilized by a wonderful tool in the eyes of the user.
Thank you very much, everyone, for those efforts. Appreciate it.
And that's the reason why we take some time to do this. That's because we need to evaluate what is happening in the back end, and
Right.
it takes time.
Do you folks have any more questions for us?
Where's the
I was gonna say
template?
something.
Okay, go ahead.
Lucy, do you want to say something?
No, I thought David had a question.
Where's the template for the policy?
It's already submitted. We already work on that, Dr. Romano, with Lucy's assistance. It's already, I believe it's already in the queue for the board to have a discussion.
So we changed our procedure so the administration reviews everything before it gets to the board now.
Correct.
So I have to go find out where it is on the pipeline. Do we know what's the title of the policy?
I saw today an email from Dr. Reynolds. I believe that is in the last stage of review. So it probably coming to you now that after the review by the administrators for the next meeting probably.
Okay.
Is it called data privacy policy? What's the exact name so we know to look for it?
There are two. Is the data privacy policy and also the PBR, the Parent Bill of Rights.
Okay.
So the Parent Bill of Rights, just so you know, we adopted a Parent Bill of Rights for a long time. We adopted the NYSCD enacted Parent Bill of Rights, and then
Yeah, I think there are previous policies on personally identifiable information, but it's probably not up to date with the latest legislation. So.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then once it's done, you just need to make sure you send it out, however you do sign offs to all the employees, so they can just sign off that they have it. You put it up on your website and you've met one of the main requirements of it. And, again, state ed hasn't talked about accountability measures yet, but we have the feeling that between controllers audits and also when tech planning happens. Now, tech planning has been postponed another year because of the pandemic, but when it's time for doing your tech plan again to submit to state ed, they had started adding some questions about data security and privacy on the previous round, but I'm sure they're going to be some very more specific questions on it. And they could very easily ask for a link to your district's data privacy and security policy.
So I know that at the beginning of every year, there is a subset of our policies that all the staff has to go over and sign off on. So I'm assuming that this is going to be added to that list.
Yep, that's fine.
I guess it's September, October timeframe.
That's perfectly fine to do that.
We have a procedure already established for all the policies that are e-signed by the employees. So
right.
We will include this one in there. Absolutely.
Right. And I hope that everybody reads it fully, but then again, you don't know. So.
But they scroll down. Critical. That's why the training becomes very important.
Right.
Yes. Training and compliance.
Because the policy includes all this information in it, but if people don't read it and they just sign off on it, you want to make sure that they understand it. And that's why it's important to have all those elements included in your training.
But we're actively working on a combination of not only the training, the policy, and the information to the stakeholders, but also testing how much they actually remember and know by doing campaigns, like, phishing campaigns and everything, because it's all related to the data protection.
Right.
So we'll continue that effort. And I really want to thank you, Dr. Romano and Lucy, for this presentation and this sharing of information with our board members and committee members.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, because we spend a lot of time talking with the DPOs, but it's really interesting to hear the perspective of school board members, because we're doing all this work to protect your kids. And I really enjoyed hearing the questions that you have for us, because we don't actually get this opportunity. So I want to thank Carlos for that, and for you for giving us this time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
I apologize for my audio.
It's okay.
I apologize for the audio issue.
Right, and thank you for being patient with us through the technical issues, so.
Mhm.
Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, ladies. Good night.
Thank you.
Well, technology is great when it works. Thanks so much. So, actually, you want to share the agenda, the next item, and now we have time to continue. Still have 15 minutes.
Okay, there we go. So we're on to the Chromebook distribution and ongoing replenishment of malfunctioning devices.
Okay, Neil, you're up.
Yes,
This one.
I'll take it from here. So yes, so we did receive the devices that we ordered. I have one right here. If you can see it, we can see it. Probably not because of my cam. It looks exactly like the black ones, the C771s. But since we did get them, they have been enrolled, tagged, and put into our inventory to be aligned to the students who need devices. Right now, we are going through our waiting list. Tomorrow, we are attending to Highview and Woodlands, and we are giving about 32 devices. And then on March 5th, we are going through Jackson and RJ Bailey, which we will be giving out about 28. Once we actually filter through these devices, then we will go through the remaining students that are on this list. We want to filter through the students that have been waiting for a while for a device, or those who have been having a lot of issues with their devices first, just so they can have one right away to do their homework and whatever it needs to be. And then after that, we can filter through the new students as well. So that's the update there. Yeah.
Quick question there. How many
Sure.
devices did we receive?
We received 150 devices.
Okay, and that was, what was that? Almost a year in the making, right? For the manufacturer to give it to us?
Yeah, it was a while. It was nice to get them all. It was like Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, awesome. Do we have any other orders in the queue, or do we think we're good with this?
Yeah, I wanted
So,
to go over that with Neil as well. I put in the chat the link to the actual spreadsheet that we have for the distributions incoming starting tomorrow. You click on the link in the chat and share with everybody. Yeah. So Neil, you can actually go over this individual number of devices that we are distributing in each building, but this is not a special distribution. This is an ongoing effort, because we're already distributed to the larger number of students. We have already covered pre-K to 12, but we have ongoing issues with technical problems with devices, malfunction, and also broken devices, that they are not really related to malfunction, but it was just quasi, I would say, intentional damage. So we try to address all of this, and we have a repair service. That's what allows us to actually don't purchase more new ones. We actually recycle the ones that we have, and we repower them, and they become like pristine new and ready to be used. So at this point, we feel comfortable with the 150 devices that we receive, but we are planning for next year because we are also getting to the end of life for the first generation of Chromebooks that we purchased 3 years ago. So every year we do a 30% replenishment. And that is keeping our technology being new, available, and ready, and at the same time to do something that is very efficient, which is replenishing the devices before they actually become obsolete. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, so with this 150 devices and the ones we are getting from this company, I think I know we are okay with filtering through this waiting list. Just to give you a quick number, actually last month, we had over 120 kids on this waiting list. And it was just ongoing just because we didn't have enough devices to give out. As of right now, we have about 60 kids, which will be fulfilled after March 5th, once parents come by and pick it up, of course, right? And that's our main goal here. Once we get through that waiting list, we're in the clear. And just looking at these numbers and and what the repair guys are giving me, it looks pretty good. And their turnaround time is about a week. So I'm giving him batches of 40. I give him a week. He calls me and he brings the devices straight to the building. And I look over them, make sure they're good, and then give them out.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Ramirez, a quick question. To your earlier point, since we have to do, I think you said approximately 30% refresh. That's what we do per year.
Yeah.
Since we waited so long for these because, just of the backlog, do we plan on putting in our orders sooner for that new 30% or?
Yes. Actually, we're putting that order in our new budget for next school year. So we're going to go ahead and do the requisitions right before. Our goal is we have this. I don't know if you are familiar with the process that we follow. We have a 3-year lease, and then we actually lease to buy. So each one of these devices at the end of their life, they cost $1 to the district. They remain with us. We can actually recycle and reuse up to the end of life, the total. So what we do is we're planning about 300 Chromebooks per year, and that will be sufficient to keep this ongoing. As you can see, every day we also get some enrollments, new enrollments every month, and we try to attend to those new enrollments on an ongoing basis. So it's pretty efficient. It's very efficient. It's a good system that we have in place. And I assigned this to Maria and Neil, and they excel at this. As you can see, the name of the techs assigned, Cardi, who's also on this call, they all work very diligently on having all these devices ready for the parents and follow all the safety and health protocols to ensure that these devices are in pristine condition before they are handed to these children.
Thank you for that.
Okay. If we can move to the next one.
Okay, so the next topic on our agenda is an update on structural technology. Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Rendon.
So I will start by introducing what I mentioned before, our ongoing support to instructional technology initiatives and software and everything. That not only goes from the part of the assessments, like for example, right now we're working on iReady mid of the year assessments to ensure that we have at least two points of data to inform our stakeholders, our board, our central administration on how much progress in terms of academics we have for our students. At the same time, we need to provide with support to our teachers, continue working on the engagement of the students in instruction. And Mr. Rendon is going to talk a little bit about how we actually progress in that area with getting New York Path now. In terms of iReady, I don't know if you still have questions, but we are preparing a full report after the assessments are given. So I think that is a little early to actually talk on that, but if you have any questions, we can actually try to resolve and answer. Any questions about iReady, middle of the year? Because this is the second data point for assessments in iReady.
So what's the schedule?
Schedule is already developed. We're starting next week. Actually, Diego can go in detail with some of these dates. It was shared with all the principals. We're starting with elementary schools. We're doubling up in terms of the students that are in hybrid and in person. So the goal is to do this flawless. Sometimes when you do remote, there's no way to really ensure the fidelity of the results. We want to be sure that we can actually accomplish that. So we're going to work on the hybrid and in person first. Those are going to be actually administered starting next week. Diego, you want to go in more detail about building by building?
Sure. So starting next week, because it is the second administration of iReady, it's a bit easier to administer at the same time. So the in-person cohorts will be doing the administration with the teachers in the classrooms. The remote students, we will be doing the assessment via Google Classroom and making sure that they participate and complete the assessment. So next week, we start with cohort A and the cohort A-B students. And then the following week, we switch over to the cohort B students. The middle school will be on a Wednesday, Thursday of next week in the morning hours. there is an ELA reading component and a math component. And so we plan on being done, basically taking about a week and a half of administration, and then having some time for makeups, right? The students that don't make the actual schedule time of administration, and then be able to look at data in about 3 weeks time after the diagnostic has been completed for the most part. I believe the last time we did the first diagnostic, we were at a 96% completion rate. So that was a pretty good amount of kids that actually did the diagnostic. So we're hoping for the same and or better result second time around. So that's on iReady. And then on Neopod, we successfully deployed Neopod to the district, the entire district. We are working on professional development. The teachers that were taking advantage and loved Neopod before we got the paid version were the ones that partly most excited about it because they're able to get all the tools that the software offers. And so now the second task is to expose those teachers to the tool that have never heard of it or have never really been drawn to it. So working with Ms. Laura DeAndrea, we'll be putting a training schedule together for the teachers, most likely on a Friday, which is where most of the trainings are taking place. It's just a matter of finding the next available Friday for teachers to be able to attend the training sessions. I know that there's the Writing Revolution training, we have Newsella training happening, we have Castle Learning in the queue, so it just keeps coming and coming and piling on. So it's a little tough to manage the schedule, but it is happening soon. That's it from me.
Okay, David.
Sure. I've read in my local news feed that the federal government has decided that we have to have New York State testing. Yes. So what are the plans for the regular old ELA and math and all those tests?
Well, so I can give you an update on that. We have been working on assessment preparations as it was happening, even though that the state of New York already appealed to the federal government for a waiver, waiting on the results of that waiver request. So at this time, we are in full motion of preparation for ELA 328 and also, math and science and NICE's lab, if that if that comes to fruition. So we continue with the ongoing work that we do, preparing all the rosters and everything. I gotta
and all the regions and all that.
Yeah, the feds are trying to push for it because you need to have some data points, and definitely you need data to see what is the state of the progress in academics. I think that all educators agree that assessments are basically knowledge check. That's what it is. So that's the purpose of that. Now, eventually, with the pandemic and everything else, we have been working on all these social, emotional initiatives to try to balance out. But now it's time to start preparing for reopening. I gotta say that one of the models, our model right now, our model that we're gonna follow for the rest of this school year is prepare for a full reopening of schools and try to provide for all those resources for in-person learning. And it's an effort that we need to engage, and we'll see how it goes and what happens with the federal and the state telling us what to do and the guidance that they will provide.
Carlos, I think that is I think that's really smart. I think that even though we don't have the specific guidelines, it does make sense at least to start to prepare like we are going to open so that, we're ahead of the game instead of trying to, scramble. So that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I gotta say the support that we receive from central administration and the board is basically the engine that moves us to continue doing this work.
I did want to go back to something about the iReady, just a comment. I did receive emails from the principals for both of my children alerting me about the assessment coming up. And there was a key sentence in that letter that, I guess I'm not sure if all the parents will latch onto it, but the key was for anyone that who has children that are fully remote, and it's a really important point. Do not help your children during the assessment, because the point of us doing the iReady assessment in the middle of the year is to really gauge how much they're progressing. And the letter went into detail and said that specifically there are going to be questions that are going to be way above your child's grade level, which there's no expectation that they're going to be able to answer. And then there are going to be much simpler questions. And the point is the test is going to auto detect based on how the children are answering the questions and come up with more or less where they at, what their proficiency level is. And as a parent, and the letter struck a chord with me as soon as I read it, because it's something that goes in my mind. Sometimes you see your child and they're struggling a little bit, and you want to jump in and help them through it, right? And say, look, it's just think of it this way and give them some perspective. But in the case of the assessments, if you do that, you're actually kind of damaging the assessment results, because now we don't know for sure, is it that our child is at this level or were they assisted? So in case you didn't get a chance, any of the parents that are listening or watching this right now, in case you didn't get a chance to read that letter, just hear what I'm saying, that the letter did say that. And it's best if we let our children really just take the assessment on their own, follow it, and then the school district will have an accurate gauge as to where each one of our children stand and where they need assistance. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Ashley. And I just want to reinforce,
Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
An adapted tool. So it goes with the results that the students show with the assessment and how they progress through each one of those questions. So the moment that you get any help, you actually make that flaw. And whatever is coming after that, it will be not for the right level of the student. I know as a parent, as an educator, that's the main goal, fidelity of the assessment. We're making our best efforts to provide for that. And Diego can go in more detail about the schedule that we did and all of that, but it needs the participation of the partners at home. It needs the participation of the parent guardians. I can go right into the next topic if that is okay, Ashley.
Please do.
Yeah. So the next one is the technology and facilities coordination and planning meeting that is already scheduled. So what I did is I was attending the last couple of finance and facilities meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there is big plans and we like planning. So therefore, I'm doing a coordination with facilities and the business office. We are meeting on Monday to kind of go over each one of those plans and the cost and the planning for any wiring required in any of the options that you have in those facilities plans. We want to be sure that we are up to speed on everything and we don't find out about this at the last minute. And then we need to look for the resources, because technology expenditures involve a lot of these construction or anything that involves extending the services that we have for our children will require technology. So the best thing that we can do is sound planning to have a coordination. And Lisa was very helpful in this process. And I have a conversation with my Falcon. So we're looking into working all together in that goal. You will hear from us.
Good. We look forward to hearing the results of that meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I guess we're up to the last agenda item, the safety and security update. It looks like Dean Parker's not here. Laser, are you able to cover that?
Yeah, not much has changed from the last time. I haven't been able to get around to the buildings to install. I'm trying to install them around my schedule, because as you know, this is cameras are usually a summer project, and it's something like being on a ladder and your phone is ringing. So, no update on that yet.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll have to reach out to Mr. Parker and find out if there's any update on the safety of the buildings. Without him, I don't want to speak out of turn without having the information in front of me.
Actually, what I can give you as an update as part of that is that at this time, I think that the goal is to do an evaluation of where we are before all reopening schools. So we should engage on that assessment. Obviously, that needs to have a closed session in more detail, but
Yeah.
we probably do that for the next meeting. I'm gonna part of the conversation that I want to have with facilities is also to go over that detail, because we would like to do a full assessment before we get to the end of the school year, and we plan accordingly for reopening schools. As our president of the board said before, that's sound planning. We need to be ready, regardless that there is guidance or not. You know, we need to be ready, and we need to start working in that direction. Thank you.
Is there any impact on the emergency management plan?
Not at this time. We actually have all of those plans already approved by the state. It was all resolved in time. I know that the safety plan was submitted to the board in the last, I think that two instances before this last board meeting. So I don't know if we already completed the
2021, yeah. Draft posted right now.
Right, correct. So as soon as that is completed, then we can actually finalize the submission. The state is aware that this was due to the pandemic and the lack of, you know, we really couldn't get all of the elements in place, but we're still in good shape, I believe. They gave us the extension.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that update. Is there anything else that safety and technology team would like to discuss?
I'm good.
Okay, looks like we're all good. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending and for providing this helpful information. Thank you, President Darden Cintron, for multitasking with 3 screens.
It was crazy, but I made it through. This is the last.
Very good.
Awesome. And thank you, everyone, for participating. And for everyone watching, thank you for listening. We hope this was informative. And thank you again, Mr. Ramirez, for putting together that presentation with the 2 ladies that gave us all that helpful information. It was really great. It was appreciated. Thank you so much. And with that said, we hope everyone has a good night. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We're adjourning the meeting at 7:07.